Hello.
I'm Louie.
And I'm Josephine.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
A blanket statement will be read out. Each participant must hold up their paddle, indicating whether they agree or disagree. Thumbs up indicates agree, thumbs down indicates disagree. Participants will then be asked to discuss their reasons for their stance.
Hi, my name's Josephine. I represent the parents' side.
My name's Louie, and I'm representing the children's side.
So the first statement is, I'm happy with my relationship that I have with my parents/children.
I'm comfortable with my relationship with my parents. It might not be the best in depending on other people's view of it. However, I'm comfortable. I have good communication with them, in my opinion. It may not be often with my dad, however, it's sufficient, in my opinion, for myself. My mother as well, I visit her regularly, so I believe it's a good relationship I have.
Well, in regards to my parents, they've both passed on. In regards to my children, I'm very open and honest towards them. I encourage that back. I'm not judgmental, so I'm open to hear anything. Even if I'm not in agreement with it, I will understand it. I will always voice my opinion. And yeah, I think I'm an honest parent. I'm firm but fair. I mean, they're young adults now in their own right, doing their own thing. But I still think I'm entitled to my opinion. If I feel that something's not right, I will make my thoughts very clear.
What's your relationship like with your parents?
Relationship. Depends. Mum, very good. Dad, not so good.
I feel like, although I was born and raised in London, but I always say, although I was born and raised here, I'm very much the African. So I firmly believe in those old traditions of being respectful to your elders. Although I still do believe that, as you grow older yourself, you're entitled to your opinion. So it's not all the way, whereas you should have no opinion at all, because I'm older than you, then I know everything and I'm not to be challenged. So, I have those old school values, but with a balance, with a fair balance. Also, I just, in regards to discipline, respect, boundaries, it's like to say, I would say like this, if you swear, like I know my children swear, but you don't do that in front of me. Do you know what I mean?
No,
it's fine. Whereas I know some parents they're okay with their children swearing in front of them, which for me it's like well, no, to me it's familiar. It's too familiar for my liking. But that's for me personally.
Yeah, no, that's good. So would you say as well that your parents were they more understanding of when you were growing up? Is it similar, or if you had to kind of not water it down, but
slightly more. I mean,
cater
my
to-
mum was very strict. I grew up with my mum, although I knew my dad. I grew up with my mum. My mum was very strict. I am strict, and I'm known as the strict one, even amongst like family and friends. It's like, oh, if you go to Auntie Joe's, it's no nonsense. You can't do this, and you can't do that. So yeah, I'm very firm. I'm very fair, but I'm fair and I'm very no nonsense.
What's your relationship like with your children?
I would say it's a good one. We communicate quite well. My daughter probably not as much, as she's kind of very, to herself. But I still think we have a fairly good relationship.
It's similar to Josephine. I do value the old school, African raising up. I believe also, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I believe I've grown up quite well despite some little obstacles along the way. But those old school values do take you. It does put you in a different position to other people, as you can see it from the outside in. Oh, you didn't have this kind of African upbringing. This is why you behave in this way, talk in this way, and think in this way.
It's foundation.
It's foundations, swearing that didn't occur in my household. You know, it's something that we all picked up outside. Similar, you're aware that we know the swears. We watch movies and all sorts. However, in the household, it wasn't part of our vocabulary. You don't need to use these kind of languages, especially around your mother. So even if your mother does maybe, you know, use it, whether she's upset or angry or in a situation, it's not something that you feel, okay, that's something I'll replicate. As much as, you know, as the adult, you're the role model, and it's kind of, you should do, you know, it's more like do as I say. And I agree with that statement. I would rather raise my kids like that. If I do slip up, fair enough, but you should understand that that's not the language you should be using. Raising kids as well in an African way, there's a respect, you know, like you said, firm and strict. In my eyes, it's not even strict. It's just
how it should be.
How it should be.
Yeah.
You know, there's at the end of the day, they're children and they need to be raised. They need to be guided. You can't give them too much devices. I think the world we're living in now, they're trying to give them a bit too much freedom, which it's not wrong. They're still kids, and it shows in their.
And I think you need, as a child, you need to. Sorry to talk over.
No.
You need to know your place.
Exactly. Oh, I
you
agree.
know, you need to know your place, and I think there's just way too much familiarity today.
Exactly.
Next statement: the African way of parenting can also be harmful. Okay, so you both agree. Okay, looks like we're both on the same side. Do you actually agree?
I agreed. I would say it's mainly on other people's experiences, not so much mine. I would say I've heard some other people's experiences where it has been a bit too harsh. They've ended up well. However, there's little consequence or little repercussions that have occurred through life that you can say, okay, maybe that might be due to the African way. For example, some parents can be so strict where the child's way of expressing is so confined that when they put in a situation of freedom, they go a bit crazy. They don't know what to do. You know, when we go to university, for example, there's some kids who grew up so strict, so confined that when they go and they get all this freedom, they lose their head. Could affect their education, could affect their lifestyle. Some people lead to some drug abuse, etc. So overall, it could stem down to the African parenting, but there's also other factors, you know, their surroundings, etc. But I think that being too and overly strict, especially if you live in this country as well, it can sometimes confuse the child as well growing up, especially if you're surrounding yourself with certain individuals, certain friends who probably don't have that similar confinement in terms of culture and respect. But that's why I think the African way of raising up can be detrimental sometimes to the child's upbringing.
I agree with mostly of what you said actually. And while it can, you know, provide a steady foundation, it can also be a damaging one, depending on how that parenting is implemented. And if it is very much that on an out of balance scale of I am the parent, whatever I say goes, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, you know, you're to listen, you do what I want you to do. There can be an overpowerment of where that child is not allowed to really live its own life. And it's, you know, these are what my ideals are, and they're imposed on the child. So again, like you mentioned, going to uni, it's you know, well, you're to go to uni, you're to get an education. That is everything, everything. When actually, it's actually not. And there's so much changing in today's society, and being at uni is not the be-all and end-all of life. And one can still mature, one can still get on in life, one can still progress, one can still have a great job, one can create their own work.
That's true.
You know, there's so many options, but I think as African parents, they can be very one-dimensional. And it's education. Education is, you know, it's everything. And if you're not doing anything, say like you want to enter into the arts, that's rubbish.
It's true.
You know, and it's, you don't know what that young woman or young man is going to become within the arts. Yes, okay, is it a big pool and is it hard to break through? But how do you know they're not going to be the one to break through. And in that sense, I differ because I believe that if your child has a dream, then, within a sensible reason, support them. Whatever it is that they want to do, support them. And you see how far that will go. You don't know where it's going to go. If you see that you think it's steering a little bit wrong, then as a parent, you guide them. But I think you should allow children to be and do, like I said, within reason, not, sort of off the scale. But I think you should never kill a child's dream, and I think a lot of African parents kill children's dreams.
What would you define as hard truth?
Hard truth, I believe something that's a fact, but you don't want to hear it. That would be a hard truth for me.
My parents supported my dream. For Josephine, is I supported my children's dreams.
You know what? I wanted to actually agree and a bit disagree based on the fact that I think I was kind of already groomed to the profession I was in, which wasn't a negative thing as I was excelling better in physics and maths, which led me to engineering. However, the idea came from my dad, who's, he did electrical engineering, and he went through that way, went into the industry and so forth. So I was a bit coerced into doing electrical engineering, and then I reached uni and I figured out I prefer mechanical. However, it's still a type of engineering. So I would say yes, they supported because whatever I needed from GCSE, from Key Stage 3, they provided books. If I needed lessons in terms of maths, they provided it. So they did support. However, was it my dream? I guess as a young man, you can think of all sorts of career paths. But one thing that you did mention was the guidance. So I feel when you can see your kid maybe being a bit uncertain, it's good to kind of just guide them, direct them. I would do the same.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crushing your kid's dream when you can see your child is not really deciding.
That's right.
Because, some people grow up and they're very indecisive, till now, very indecisive. I don't know what career I'll do. So my parents did support me. But at the same time, I don't know if that was definitely my dream, but I'm happy with the decision. So it can work in some ways where parents' guidance may come through, and I'm happy with that decision.
Because I agree, because in the sense of, I think I'm very supportive in whatever idea, I guess, because, sometimes when you're young, they're just kind of ideas of what you would like to be or what you would like to do. So whatever it was that my children mentioned that they had an interest in, I would make sure they go and done it. So that they could explore it to understand whether they actually really like it or they don't. So they have that opportunity. They may say, okay, I want to go and dance, for instance. Okay, I will find you the very best dance class. Go and explore it, experience it. Then you'll know whether you want to take it further, if it's just a hobby, or, whatever it may be, but you get that opportunity to experience. I think it's important for your children to experience different things and not just what you feel that they should experience. So I'm very open like that. So they took part in a number of different activities, sort of out in school and outside of school. They did trampolining, gymnastics, football, acting, dance, all kinds of contemporary, tap, modern, jazz, street. They've anything they've had an interest in, they've been able to explore to the fullest. And then, the rest is up to them to say, well, okay, this is something maybe I may want to pursue or not. But they've been able to experience. And I think just generally to just open your children up to things and allow them to try different things. I mean, as well as that, they had tutors at home, to support their schooling and everything. But I just think it's good to give children a variety of options, of experiences. Growing up, academics is important, yes, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And I think as parents, you need to understand every child individually. And I think some parents don't take the time to do that. They just generalize, or they have a general idea. You know, two children can be very, very different. And you've got to tap into your children and really understand what works for them. Because what works for one may not work for the other. Or what your ideal of what you think should work just all round, it may not be compatible with your children. And I think you have to be open and honest about who your children are. And I think a lot of parents are not.
That's very true. Just a quick one, Josephine. Have you ever considered, so your kids were quite open, you gave them the opportunity to explore different avenues. When they eventually picked one, I'm assuming, or maybe did pick any of them, did you ever feel that it might have been a waste?
No, because an experience is an experience, and they will always have that and know that they had the opportunity, and they can never turn around and say, oh, well, I liked that, but I never got to know what it would be like. You know? So, you know, the grounds were covered on everything and anything. And it's just like taking your children out and letting them experience different things, you know, that's different from the norm. Like when I grew up, I lived on the 10th floor of a tower block, but we would go to Kew Gardens for picnics. Like none of my friends were doing things like that. You know, I used to go to the Cumberland Hotel. Come Christmas time, we'd have Christmas dinner, as well as, you know, doing what we did with family. But I experienced things that I was aware that none of my friends, even with two-parent families, weren't really doing things like that. And I was always made to understand that I can be anything. Like, you know, living on the 10th floor doesn't define me. And I've instilled the same thing in my children. I make them understand you can be anything you want to be.
The next statement is, I think I'm right most of the time within my parent-child relationship. Start with you, Josephine.
I think because I would say the reason why I'm saying I'm right, because I'm very open and I'm very honest with myself within situations. And I'm a person, if I'm wrong, even with my children, if I'm wrong, I will apologise. I'm not wrong and strong, or, well, because I'm the parent, I don't have to apologise, because some parents have that tone of, well, I don't need to apologise to you. You know, I'm the adult. But if I'm wrong, and I will apologise in any situation, including, you know, circumstances with my children.
But majority of the time, you believe you're right.
Yeah, I think most of the time I am, to be fair. Most of the time I am. Not all of the time. Sometimes I get it wrong. I'm human.
Yeah.
And like I say, I can hold up my hands. But most of the time, I'm right. I think I have a pretty good insight and analysis of things. And, you know, I will weigh things up and then, yeah, voice my opinion.
That's good. I also think majority of the time I'm right when it comes to my parents. See, there's a thing that they say, you know, when the student becomes the master. At the same time, they're my parents. I respect them and I love them. However, they provided me with the opportunity to get educated.
Yeah.
And I haven't taken that for granted. So there's certain things, and the way I've lived, what we experience, I believe, may not be similar to, you know, they grew up in Africa. When you grow up in, you know, there's certain new things that they may not be aware of, certain new ways of thinking, living, that it's easy as a child to adapt to. For parents, sometimes, you know, maybe stuck in their own ways.
Yeah.
The transition is not as smooth. So that's where, and I feel like there's not much, you know, we've just had, we don't disagree that much. And so majority of the time, we probably agree on the same things between me and my parents. And I am open to being wrong sometimes. I understand that, you know, there's certain things that my mum is aware of, that is not my forte, and she will, you know, voice her opinion. I will voice my opinion, and then in the end, we'll find out who's wrong. I was wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. But I believe that happens or occurs maybe 5% of the time. So 95% of the time, I'm right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't debate that much.
Yeah.
But 95% of the time, I'm right.
You're right. That's good.
There are many aspects of my life that my parents are aware of, that's for Louie, and there are many aspects of my life that my children aren't aware of.
Is that aunt or aunt?
Aunt or whatever.
Okay.
They are.
Lee, why did you agree?
There are a lot of aspects of my life that I don't think my parents are aware of. I would say my social way of behaving, the way I behave with people around my age, my friends, is not the same way I'll behave in front of kids younger than me. Certain things I'll say, sometimes certain discussions you have. And at the same time, although we are adults, there's certain things that I probably won't discuss with my parents. And also because I'm quite a reserved guy, so when I'm with my family, there's not too much that they see in terms of the real me. Why do I? It's not something that I hide. I just don't think it's appropriate at the time to bring in front of them. But as time goes on, I'm opening myself a bit more to them. But when I was growing up, I was kind of a bit of a not lone wolf, but I was surrounded by ladies, being the only guy. So I tend to play by myself in terms of the PlayStation. My interest is football, so there was no Sky Sports. My mom said no, we don't watch football, so she ain't paying for it. So I'd have to find other ways to watch my football. Played a bit of football in Sunday league. She's not, Sundays, church day. She's not trying to drive me to wherever it is. So I'll have to find ways with other friends. So from that, there's just it's been a way where they wouldn't be able to see the full me. Now I've opened it up a bit more, so slowly, but I still don't think that my parents know that much about me.
Okay. Yeah, they do. I'm pretty much open. Generally, what you see is what you get. I can have a good laugh. I can get down. I think I'm quite open in terms with young people. And understanding them where they're at and so on. I've worked with young people for many years and stuff. So in regards to my children as well, I have that same sort of openness.
There's been moments where I felt like I failed my parents, or there's been moments where I felt like I failed my children. Josephine, you kind of thought about that for a while.
Yeah. I tell you why I paused. If I'm talking in regards to myself, because I can only be accountable for myself as a parent, I think I've done the very best that I was able to do. Did I get everything right all of the time? No, because nobody does. But I do think I've had a very good crack at the whip. I think I've done well. The reason why I paused was, I guess, in regards to, I would say, picking, if you're going to put it like that, picking partners. Whereas I was a single parent for a period of time with my son, like his dad wasn't around like that. So in hindsight, when I look back at things, but then at the same time, you still never know how things go. You kind of look and you think, well, could my choices have been better in regards, I guess, to picking a counterpart to have children with. But that's in hindsight. But then, you don't know. And that's why I paused in terms of, who became his father. And he wasn't, honestly speaking, someone that sort of added to his life. But then at the same time, he is a makeup of the both of us. And I wouldn't change that for who he is. I guess he's a mixture. Of course, there's always elements that you'd like to, take out. But, but then I have to look at that. Your children are who your children are. Do you know what I mean? And they are a makeup of both mother and father. And in that sense, you know, I don't love my child any less because of who his dad is. Whereas my son and my daughter have different fathers. And whereas, you know, with my daughter's father, I was settled, I was married, and so on. He took my son on. Well, we were friends for years prior, so, you know, he had known him for a great length of time. So then, you know, you kind of look at those, you look at the balance, but, you know, at the same time, it's, you know, you don't know these things at the time.
And what would you define as a hard truth?
I think admitting the things that are wrong with yourself. So I like to think in every sort of dimension of their lives, I'm a solid for them, if you see what I mean. I think, yeah, I would like to say, you know, all round. Like I say, not always getting it right, but I think the basics I cover. Yeah, overall, I think I'm a good parent.
Yeah, in my opinion, I have disappointed my parents. I think as a child, you kind of know when it's disappointment and not just anger and they're upset at you. It's because the way that they channel their anger is in a way of, I don't know what to do. Yeah. So when you've been on the receiving end of you know, a little shaking of the head, a little sigh, but you can see in their eyes that, okay, you know, I'm not even gonna get angry or shout. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, it hits you as a child. I think those resonate probably with you more than the actual rah rah. Let me, you know.
Yeah, the shouting and the carrying on.
Yeah,
Yes.
like how can you the back and forth and you know. Yeah. So yeah, I think a couple of times I have. You can hear it in the tone of voice they're using, the language they're using, the bit of the confusion, like why, but overall, a bit like you. Overall, I don't think, you know, I disappointed my parents. I believe that if they came on here and you asked them, they probably would say, no, he's not disappointing me. But we know there's certain moments where they probably would have preferred you to do the opposite.
Of course.
Or also, you know, and they were a bit down. But at the same time, we're growing up, we make mistakes, we're human, and I'm sure they're aware of that, so they probably won't hold it against me, but overall, I don't think they're disappointed, but there was a couple times that I would say I disappointed my parents.
Yeah. But then, as much as I've said what I said, I'm sure there may be points that I may not even have been aware of, where my children may have felt that they needed more support, and maybe I just, for whatever reason, didn't perceive it at the time. Do you know what I mean? They may have, but like I say, I would say overall, I like to think I've got pretty much a lot of stuff covered because I spend a lot of time, you know, thinking about individual needs and stuff like that. It's important. But yeah, I'm sure there's still moments, like I said, I'm not perfect, that I've missed, you know, and like you were saying about, you know, the disappointment. I've had moments when I'm disappointed. My son right now is in prison. I'm disappointed because it's like, for all the talent and the gifts that you had, what are you doing there? I'm not impressed. Do you know what I mean? I'm not impressed at all. But I'm very vocal. Of course. Yeah, and I always tell my children this: I will always love you. I will not always like you. Wow. And that's but it's fact. I'm being honest. It's fact. Because some of the things that your children are going to do as they grow up, or even as adults, you are not going to like. You're not going to be in agreement with, and you're just going to think, what is wrong with you? Because you know better. So it's fact. So I tell my children, but I'll always love them, but I will not always like you. Wow. Yeah. Straight from Auntie Joe. Yeah. No. One, you know, that's with me. I'm very straightforward, you know, so yeah, I'll keep it. Like I said, the love will never change, but when I don't agree with something, I don't agree with it. And I don't believe in going along with things or making excuses. And I see so many parents doing that, and I find it so annoying. Yeah. And I just don't think you're doing your children any favours either when you make excuses for their behaviour. Oh, it's this one. Oh, it's that. Oh, it's, You know, it's like, no, they need to take ownership, and you need to take ownership on who your child is. Because I think some some parents are deluded about who their children are, you know, and you need to understand your child for who they are, be it good, bad, or indifferent. But you need to be honest with yourself on who they are as individuals. And for me, wrong is wrong. And when I don't agree with something, or I know that you've gone left, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or pretend I don't notice it. I'm bang to rights. I'm going to have you up. This, and this is nonsense. What are you doing? Think about what you're doing. You better know yourself in what you're doing. And I'm not in agreement. So do with that what you may.
Last statement. This one is a short one.
Okay.
Short and sweet is, for you, Louie, I'll be happy for my parents to watch this episode of Hard Truths. And for you, Josephine, I'll be happy for my children to watch this episode of Hard Truths. And Louie, was that kind of flipped it there?
Yeah, no, it was just me playing around. I think we discussed in one of the questions, you know, about your parents knowing you. I have nothing to hide. This is not. I haven't discussed or said anything that they would probably disagree with. We're quite in agreement, so I'll be more than happy for them to see this episode, and hopefully they can maybe reflect a bit on whatever I've said if they need to, and yeah. If they need to take pointers, if they need to learn from as well, you yourself from what you mentioned, which I believe that is a great way of raising kids and upbringing. I literally see myself being and having that same mentality as yourself. I'm quite firm in my opinions.
Yeah.
You have to do a lot to sway me on my opinion. And in the sense, you have to really convince me that my opinion is wrong. Like I said, 5% of the time is when I'm wrong. So 95% I believe I'm correct. So it takes a lot. And it's good to stand firm. Accountability is key. It's key. Your actions do translate. No matter how much you are your individual person, your actions will translate to the ones around you, your loved ones, in some way, shape, or form. Be aware of that.
Yes.
Take ownership. And yeah, as much as this is our lives, you're living it for yourself, but there's other people along the way that either helped you, that were around you, that will always be around you, that you should take into account in your actions. So I'll be happy for anyone to watch this video.
That's a wrap.
Cool.
You just watch Hard Truths, real people, and even realer conversations. If you like what you watched, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in to the next one.